everybody. Here I am, very pleased to be with Dr. Wei Mao, who has just graduated from Concordia University with her doctoral degree. Concordia University is in Canada, and Dr. Mao has been working on a project called Supporting Young Children's Bilingual or Multilingual Development through Storybook Reading, Insights from Chinese Immigrant Families. And we at HabelNet are very proud to have funded much of this research. And we invited Dr. Mao for this interview because we think it's very important. And so I'll be asking her a few questions. So hello to you as well. So my first question is, why did you start investigating this topic that you chose for your dissertation?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank Dr. De Howard. Thank you so much for this interview. I would like to share my study with everybody and also thank HabelNet for your support throughout my dissertation. Thank you so much.
You're
So
very welcome.
in terms of why I choose this topic, I think this study, the whole project was inspired by my personal and professional experiences in both China and Canada. Before coming to Canada, I worked in a company that provided English instruction for children aged 3 to 12 years old in China. During that time, I witnessed firsthand how anxious parents were about their children's future and how much pressure was placed on young children. So many Chinese parents, they actually live by the motto, don't let your child lose at the starting line. So as a result, they try to accelerate their child's learning to gain a very competitive advantage from early age. So in fact, at the company I worked, I just mentioned before, the programs for children aged between 3 to 9 years old were the most profitable one, showing the high demand for English learning at that in China, even from 3 years old. Although many parents, I talked to a lot of parents, they said, oh, I recognize that my child was overloaded. They were afraid to cut back on some activities because they feel they fear their child would fall behind. As I mentioned, they want their child to win at the starting line. I noticed the same educational anxiety among Chinese Canadian parents. During my master's thesis, one mother told me before moving to Canada, she thought the Canadian educational system would be better than China's. However, after arriving, she realized that the two systems are at two extremes. China's is too pushy and Canada's is too relaxed. So she really wants something in between, a more balanced approach. So for me personally, as an insider, I deeply respect parents, Chinese parents' values and understand why they do what they are doing. And as with parents from my studies and from my networking, I believe parents are children's first teachers and take an important responsibility in supporting their child. However, I do also believe such responsibilities shouldn't become parents' burdens. Until now, through several years of learning in Canada, almost 6 or 7 years till now, I want to, same as the parent I just mentioned, I want to find a third place where Western and Eastern perspectives on education can meet. So therefore, what I'm doing and will continue to do is to introduce some of the Western style parenting to Chinese parents. I know some might work, some might not work. So I want to work with parents to explore more effective parental involvement practices that best fit Chinese context and fit Chinese individual family context. So the two studies funded by HabelNet explore how Chinese families in Canada navigate parent-child interactions to support early language development. So my hope for the whole project is that the whole project will provide parents with practical insights that empower them to support early bilingual learning in a way that the parents feels right for their family and for their child.
Thank you. Yes, very interesting. So how did you go about investigating the topic?
So the whole project included 2 studies, as I shared in the full report. I used multiple methods to investigate parents' experiences with and also perspectives on supporting their child's early bilingual development. So the methods include parent questionnaire, reading observations, reading logs, and focus group discussions. So it's kind of a mixed method research method. So the data collection started from January 2024 and ended August 2024. So generally speaking, all the parents stayed with me more than half a year. I can go through each step one by one. So first, parent questionnaire. All parents filled out a questionnaire regarding their demographic information, child's language use and exposure in and outside the home, and family reading experiences, and parental views on bilingual or multilingualism. Second, the first reading observation. So all the parents and their child attended a reading observation where they read 2 books with their child in the way and languages that they feel more comfortable with. So one book was a Chinese book, and one was chosen between English and French by parents and children, because we want to see parents, if they change their reading styles when reading in their heritage language or societal languages. And the results I would like to share more later on. Third, the dialogical reading workshop and at-home implementation. After the first reading observation, I conducted a workshop to familiarize parents with dialogical reading and a digital reading pen. Parents were asked to engage in dialogical reading and use the pen as they wished at home. They were provided with reading materials to use the dialogical reading and the pen at home for 8 weeks. And in the meantime, they were asked to log their reading practices and return the log every week. And next one is the second reading observation. So after the 8-week at-home practices, all parents and their child were invited back for a second reading observation to assess the impact of the workshop on the parent-child interactions and parental reading style. I just observed before. So in this visit, I observed parents reading a Chinese book and English or an English book. At the same visit, parents read a 3rd book in the languages of their choice and were asked to incorporate the digital reading pen in their reading. So the process is very similar to the first reading. I just added one more condition to see how they use the pen. Lastly, I conducted focus group interviews to get the parents' views on dialogical reading to support their child's language learning and their opinions regarding the utility of the digital reading pen. So yeah, that's how I did the whole process.
Okay. Dialogic reading is just like a conversation, basically, right?
Yes. So we teach them how to not just read the text, try the best to engage more with the child, ask questions, ask literal questions, ask distancing questions, then link the book content to the child's life and ask some inferential questions. Yeah, so to try to support child's understanding of the story and also let the child speak more during the reading.
Thank you. So what are your main results?
The main results, the findings reveal that following dialogical reading instructions, parents significantly increase their use of dialogical reading. So previously, they might ask a very simple yes or no question. And after the training, they will try to ask more kind of advanced questions. What is this? And what do you think? Those kind of inferential and distancing questions. And no matter of the language of the book in both societal language and heritage language condition. And more specifically, parents engaged in more, as I said, advanced question talk, such as distancing question, inferential questions, and expanding more on their child's responses, especially when reading books in their heritage language. And children's responses correlated highly with parents' talk. So that's what we want. So we want parents to talk more, and in the end, children talk more, right? And in exploring parents' experiences with perceptions of dialogical reading in the focus groups, parents actually, both parents and children actually enjoy dialogical reading. Parents said this specific technique benefit to their child's language and cognitive development and strengthen parent-child relationships and reading enjoyment. Some parents mentioned that before they consider reading as a task. I want to finish it within 5 minutes. Now they feel like, oh, I need to sit still and listen to my child and talk to my child. And they really find, oh, I have a time to communicate with my child right now. Previously, I didn't have that. So these are some benefits the parents mentioned. So that's why parents mentioned that they would like to continue to use dialogical reading at home. But still, parents also reported challenges that could hinder the use of dialogical reading. So that's what I want to know, because I know some recommended practices, a lot of them are not ideal, right? So we need to listen to parents and listen to the practitioners to see what kind of challenges you have. We want to work on those. So for parents, they feel like they might need more knowledge and skill in dialogical reading, especially for some questions like inferential questions and distancing questions, those more advanced questions. They still feel like a little bit difficult for them to come up with those questions. For literal questions, they feel like, oh, this is so easy. I can just ask them, what color is it? And how many birds on this page, right? There's no problem for those. But for those inferential questions, they still need some time to figure out what kind of question they can ask. They also feel like the divergences from their existing practices, especially when reading societal languages, as I mentioned in my full report. So in this group, all the parents, they primarily use Chinese at home, and children are more proficient in Chinese as well. So English and French reading is not performed as much as the Chinese. So they feel a little bit burdened to read in English or French. So this, and also more difficult for them to incorporate dialogical reading in these books as well. They also have some practical concerns, like all the parents in my study, they were employed outside the home. So they sometimes feel like, as I mentioned before, previously they read a book in 5 minutes. Now they probably need to read a book in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It's a little bit too much for the parents. And also parents do feel some emotional barriers from their child's side. So these are the opinions for the dialogical reading. Regarding the digital reading pen, we found that parents used a less dialogical reading style when using the pen than when reading a print book only. This reduction in interactive dialogue may have stemmed from parents' complex and ambivalent attitudes toward the pen. So in the focus groups, many parents view the pen primarily as a toy, and were concerned that the pen distracted or overstimulated their child. Parents and children also appear to find reading with the pen less engaging and enjoyable than reading traditional print books due to some technical issues, disruption to the natural flow of reading, and reduced human interaction, and also the limited availability of books compatible with the pen. Quite a lot of parents mention that their child prefer to be read by their parent. They don't like kind of the machine read to them. So that's kind of some interesting findings we found. But parents, they did acknowledge certain benefits of the digital reading pen. For example, they appreciated its potential to support second language learning and promote child's independent reading, and also is burdens on parents. As I mentioned, parents they feel like they are tired sometimes after work, and they just give the pen to the children, say, "Oh, you can play with it for a while." So that's why they have a big concern, and they do also have some see the potential of the use of the pen. So they want to give the pen still want to give a pen a try in the future.
Thank you. Well, is there anything in the results that surprises you?
Yes, I feel like I did find some unexpected observations and findings. Um, for the observations, I previously predicted that parents would use more dialectical reading techniques when reading and speaking in Chinese than in French or English book conditions. However, I observed that parents actually spend more time reading French or English book and used more dialectical reading when reading these books. And also, I would like to mention that we actually counterbalance language order, but still the results showed significant interaction effects of language order. So I looked deep into the dialogical techniques that parents used. I found parents asked significantly more literal questions to facilitate child's understanding of the text, to teach vocabulary in the societal language condition. I think it makes sense given that all the children in the studies are less proficient in societal languages. And also, I found that parents actually adjusted their reading strategies based on the languages they are reading. So when reading the books in their heritage language, they tended to ask more advanced questions. And when reading in societal languages, parents focused on asking literal questions, as I said, to facilitate vocabulary learning and story comprehension. So I found the differences between heritage and societal language condition are very interesting and a little bit unexpected. Another unexpected finding is about parents' acceptance to the digital reading pen. I previously assumed that parents might need the pen to read English or French books, but actually parents did not use it too much. As I said, parents viewed the pen as a toy and were concerned about the pen for some negative impacts. But after talking with them, but it's always some parents like it, some parents dislike it. But so I want to share that I like the focus group. One reason is that parents can exchange opinions with each other. So some parents who didn't like it, when they heard from other parents, they feel like, oh, I probably could give the pen another try. So yeah, that's something I feel like unexpected, and I would like to focus more on later on.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that in hindsight you would have done differently or anything?
Yeah, I think if I have a chance, I would like to improve all the aspects I mentioned in the limitations. I know it's a little bit too much and too ambitious. So to be more realistic, one key change I'd like to make is to adjust the observational settings. Instead of conducting parent-child rating observation in a lab, I would like to provide reading recording devices to parents and have them view their reading sessions at home. So when conducted the reading observations, I spoke to parents occasionally and informally. So some of them shared with me it was their first time reading a long and fictional book to their child. And some parents mentioned that they often read before bedtime in a more relaxed setting. And some parents mentioned that they typically read in a cozy place that helps both parents and child get into reading mode. So these are some I feel okay, the lab environment, although I try to make it more naturalistic, it's still not like home. And additionally, even though when I always left the observation room when parents and child are reading, I feel like not I feel I'm sure parents and children still knew I was watching remotely, which sometimes influenced their behavior. I overheard parents and children saying, "Oh, this is auntie's task. We have to finish." Or parents may say, "Be quiet. Auntie is watching you now." And then I saw sometimes the child went back to the reading right away. It was cute, but also suggests that the lab setting may have affected how naturally they interact. So I feel like in the future, I would like to conducting observation in participants' home. And it may provide a more natural, authentic picture of reading interactions. And also it might allow other family members, such as fathers and grandparents or siblings, to be involved in the study as well. So I feel like only one change I would like to make. If I only have one option, that's the one I want to change.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Well, I hope I hope you will be able to do more of these kinds of studies. So
Yeah.
who knows where life will lead you in terms of your career, right?
Yes, yes. I actually plan to recently I have some time to think ahead of my future. So I'm thinking to continue what I'm doing right now in my postdoc so
Okay.
that I can to dig more into my data
Okay.
and also to expand more on other family members or the communities. Yeah.
Well, that's really great. Well, then thank you so much for this interview, which has been um, very clear and insightful. And I really wish you the very best for your future research. And I'm
Thank you
sure
so much.
we'll hear of you. We'll hear of you a lot.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you so much. Yeah.
you're so welcome. Bye.
Bye.